The arena was electric, buzzing with anticipation as two of the most distinct and formidable fighters prepared to step into the ring. On one side, Eric Esch, better known as Butterbean, the powerhouse, the human wrecking ball, a force of nature whose sheer size and knockout power had earned him the moniker, the King of the Four-Rounders. Opposite him, Jean-Claude Van Damme, the legendary martial artist and action movie icon, a man whose speed, flexibility, and precision had made him a global sensation. The contrast between the two couldn't have been more striking. This was brute strength against calculated technique, a battle of raw power versus refined skill. As the bell rang, fans held their breath. What unfolded in the next few rounds would be talked about for years. Butterbean, with his massive 400-pound frame, was a terrifying presence in the ring. His fists carried the weight of sledgehammers, and when he connected, few opponents could withstand the impact. He was a knockout artist, having built his reputation in tough man contests before transitioning into professional boxing. Butterbean's strategy was simple: walk forward, absorb whatever his opponent threw at him, and then deliver a fight-ending punch. His punches were devastating, capable of ending fights in mere seconds. Butterbean could take a hit and keep pressing forward, making it hard for his opponents to slow him down. He didn't dance around the ring or waste energy with excessive movement. He came straight for his opponent, a living freight train of destruction. However, his weaknesses were just as glaring. His massive size meant he wasn't the most agile fighter. While he was dominant in short fights, longer battles exposed his conditioning issues. His strategy relied heavily on landing one big shot, meaning a skilled opponent could potentially outmaneuver him. Jean-Claude Van Damme, though known primarily as an action star, was a highly trained martial artist. Before Hollywood, he had a successful competitive karate and kickboxing career. His strengths were the perfect counter to Butterbean's raw force. Van Damme moved like lightning, his footwork allowing him to evade danger effortlessly. Every kick, every punch was placed with intent, aiming for the most vulnerable parts of an opponent's body. Unlike Butterbean, Van Damme's physique allowed him to last longer in fights and execute acrobatic maneuvers that many fighters could only dream of. Van Damme was significantly smaller than Butterbean, meaning he couldn't afford to get hit cleanly. While an elite striker, he lacked the kind of wrestling or clinch work that could neutralize a bigger opponent. His style required distance to be effective, which could be a challenge against someone constantly pressing forward like Butterbean. The moment the bell rang, Butterbean charged like a bull. His plan was evident: cut off the ring and throw a bomb early. Van Damme, however, was light on his feet, darting around the ring, using his superior movement to avoid the freight train coming his way. Butterbean threw a haymaker, a punch that could have ended the fight right then and there, but Van Damme ducked just in time, countering with a sharp kick to Butterbean's ribs. The crowd erupted as Van Damme continued to dance around the ring, landing quick jabs and low kicks to Butterbean's massive legs. Butterbean, undeterred, kept pressing forward, absorbing the strikes, knowing he needed just one clean shot to turn the tide. Butterbean was getting irritated. Van Damme was like a ghost, striking and disappearing before Butterbean could react. Every time he swung, he hit nothing but air. The kicks to his legs were beginning to take a toll, slowing him down slightly. Van Damme saw the opportunity and increased the pace, landing a spinning back kick to Butterbean's midsection that sent a ripple through the crowd. Butterbean responded with a thunderous hook that clipped Van Damme's shoulder, sending him stumbling. The power was terrifying, and it reminded everyone that one mistake could spell disaster for Van Damme. But he recovered quickly, maintaining distance and continuing his surgical dissection of Butterbean's defenses. By the third round, Butterbean was visibly slower. His breathing was heavy, and his footwork had become sluggish. Van Damme, in contrast, looked fresh. He had successfully executed a perfect game plan, wear Butterbean down while avoiding his monstrous punches. Then, it happened. Van Damme feinted a jab, forcing Butterbean to react. In that split second, he unleashed a spinning hook kick that landed flush on Butterbean's temple. The entire arena gasped. Butterbean wobbled but didn't go down. Van Damme didn't let up. He followed with a series of sharp, punishing strikes, low kicks, body kicks, and a final flying knee that caught Butterbean square on the jaw. The giant staggered. For the first time in his career, he looked vulnerable. Then, like a great oak falling in slow motion, Butterbean collapsed to the mat. The referee stepped in. It was over. Van Damme had done it. Van Damme's victory was a masterclass in strategy and execution. He didn't allow Butterbean to dictate the pace. Instead, he used his superior movement, technique, and endurance to gradually dismantle the bigger man. Superior speed and stamina. While Butterbean relied on quick knockouts, Van Damme played the long game, exhausting his opponent. Every kick and punch had a purpose, systematically breaking Butterbean down. By never standing toe-to-toe, Van Damme avoided the one punch that could have ended it all. The fight was a spectacle, a true battle of styles, but in the end, it was precision that overcame power. Van Damme had faced the storm and emerged victorious, proving that skill and strategy can triumph even against the most overwhelming of forces. The crowd roared as Van Damme raised his fists, a warrior who had just defeated a giant. And in that moment, the legend of this fight was born.